the game, but just some of the stuff around the Super Bowl. But this is my first post-show interview since the episode.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate your support. So I was like, it has to be.
I was screaming at my TV. Oh my God. Like, what in the world is going on? Oh my God. So I won't keep you too long, but you said you wanted to go do like a format of where I do like the review and we talk about the episode. So we could start there because I mean, if this was a regular interview, I would be asking you 1,000,001 questions. I mean, you've been on multiple shows, so I have questions for practically every show.
Yeah.
But we'll stick to what's currently airing right now. But I do have a couple of like pre-questions that I just want to get out of the way for myself, right? Okay. But yeah, are you ready? How you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling great, man. I'm excited. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Like I said, I enjoy your show. I think, yeah, super fun and funny, and I love these shows, like specifically Big Brother and the Challenge, and so I love talking about them. So as far as like, we can focus on the episode today, but yeah, if you ever want to do more stuff, just let me know, man. I love connecting and chatting.
That'll be what's up. Okay, well, we're going to start right now. What's going on, world? Thank you for tuning in to ACONNECTIONTV, the one place on the World Wide Web where we actually adopt similar connections despite our differences. And I am here with the king of talkback and, the king of beating champions, Sir Kylin. What's going on, man? How you doing today?
What's going on? Yeah, these titles are complicated now, but
they're earned. They're earned. So before we get into this last episode, which was a crazy episode, I mean, Twitter is going crazy, social media is going crazy. I watched you on Big Brother. I've seen you on Challenge USA, and now you're on season 39. So I do have some pre-questions before we get into this crazy episode that happened this past week. And for everyone that's watching, I was gonna do my review like regular. But then Kylin was like, hey, no, wait, let's do it together. Let's talk about it on Friday. I was like, okay. And so people were like, what's going on with the review? I was like, it's coming Friday. But anyways, going to Big Brother, my question is, do you think alliances like the Cookout are needed for people of color to be successful on these reality competition shows moving forward?
Wow. Necessary? No, I wouldn't go as far as say necessary, but helpful, significant at times. And let me rephrase that. I wouldn't say necessary in general, but at times might it be necessary? Possibly. I mean, it's so interesting because it's like, so I saw a picture online that showed like our safety chain in the last episode, and the final four people sitting there was Horacio, Nurys, me, and Corey. And we were like, damn, like when you look at it like that, it looks bad. And I know these people, I like these people. I don't feel like that is the source necessarily, but it is, I feel like, there's, I'm forgetting who, but there's, a scholar around like racial relations that just talks about like, people say don't make everything about race, but it's just like, race is ingrained in things the same way, socioeconomic status is the same way, contemporary good looks are, with pretty privilege or whatever, anything like that. These things are factors, male and female, dynamics. And so it's just kind of like they're omnipresent. I would say like it is interesting because this specific incident, this specific season, I don't feel like it was as much of an overlying factor, but then when you look at how it's been played out, it looks bad. It looks bad. But I don't know if that was the case. And it's not. I think the other thing that people freak out about is they're like, oh well, they'll freak out like, oh, that's not the reason. And it's just like, I feel like, I know these people, I like a lot of these people, and I don't think that that's the reason. But then it's just like, that's when you come into like subconscious bias and all that in conversations. Like, did it play a role somehow? maybe. You know, I'm not known for short answers, so that was probably as short as I can get as far as that topic right now, because I feel like that could be its own episode.
Well, I'm going to add a little bit more onto that. Do you think that it's important for people of color to work together on these reality TV shows? Like, should that be the basis on why people connect?
Okay, should that be the basis of why people connect? I would say no. Can it be the basis? I would say yes. Specifically as minorities, you know, because we've seen people say like, oh, well, what about, you know, white people doing that or something like that? It's like, well, you can't, if you want to have a legitimate conversation about race, then you can't ignore, you know, different power dynamics and norms that have resulted as a history of, you know, this country and the world, and so many parts of the world. So it's like so for sorry, I lost some train of thought there. It is a double-edged sword though, because it's also like one thing that every member of the Cookout from Big Brother has said, like, I wouldn't play that way again. Like, yeah, it was great for a unit, for all of us together to make it to the end. It was great for the bigger purpose of showing that unity and coming together to accomplish that mission of getting the first Black winner. But it's not it wasn't easy for us as necessarily all of us as individuals. There's multiple times where myself and a couple of other members of the Cookout had to prioritize the group over oneself. And
Right.
so even when we watched the next season, when we saw 24 and people are like, oh, why don't, you know, the Black people work together or whatever, like the Cookout, it's like, well, for us, we're like, we did that so you don't have to. That's literally, that was our conversation that we had. And there's one of the most emotional conversations I had was with Tiffany in the house. And we were just saying how, like, it sucks that we had to play that we felt like we had to play that way. And we're proud of it and we're glad we do it. And, you know, if it was that same situation, all of us would do it again for the purpose of making history and it never being done. But it was hard and it was frustrating and it was unfair. It was just like, dang, like, we have to do this right now because of the fact that it hasn't been done to accomplish this mission. And so I wouldn't want to say that they should, because then I think that that's going to push somebody to want to do it, or to push judgment on somebody if they don't do it when they don't really have to. Like if they have an opportunity to advance their individual game forward, they should be able to do that just like everyone else gets to. So like I want them to have that opportunity to advance their game however. And then, yeah, but sometimes might it be, you know, helpful or necessary? It might, and that's going to be case by case.
Right. So, sir, you were involved in like a very iconic Clash of the Titan type scenario on television. And me and quite a few people that I know was like, Kylin, no, don't do it. Xavier, no, don't do it. The standoff between the two of you on Big Brother was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. What did you, if anything at all, did you learn about yourself after that standoff with Xavier?
I mean, I don't know if there was anything specific in terms of like, I knew what I was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I said it exactly how I wanted to. I doubled down because that's what I believed, because, you know, we don't get to like really watch it back. Like they show the round table, but I was talking during the round table because I was so confident that I said exactly what I said in my head. And then so eventually when I found out I didn't, I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't the exact thought I had. That definitely would come off as, you know, disrespectful for somebody that I actually care about and wouldn't want to disrespect. You know, I think it's just a reminder of something that I already believe, that is like, you know, I mean, choose your words carefully and pay attention. And then it's just, for me, it was like something that I value about myself is my ease and comfort with being wrong and correcting myself. I think that that's something that a lot of people have trouble with. They have trouble with like, hey, like it's like I'm so quick to change my mind that sometimes it can come off as like lacking conviction, but it's not a lack conviction. I just process things very quickly. So if you tell me something that if you provide new information, new evidence, new perspective, and it makes sense, then I can instantly be like, that makes sense. I can move that direction very quickly. And I think that if more people, you know, that's something I value about myself. And I was glad to be able to experience that in real time. And I think it showed because, you know, of course, like we're getting a lot of love now, but like it didn't just start now. I think the mindset I went in after Big Brother was like, you know what? I'm never going to be able to convince people of who I am, like with my words, but I can just show them who I am and with my actions and consistent behavior over time. And so within, you know, weeks, if not months after, I had more and more messages from people that were like, you know what, I was upset when that happened, but the more I followed you on social and I see, you know, more of who you are and more conversation, like I think higher of you. And that was, you know, a lesson in itself.
Well, I'm going to say I'm not upset that it happened. I understood why it happened. Okay. I was right there with you. And I was like, all I did not want to happen was for someone to throw hands. Like, I did not want that to happen. So I'm glad that that didn't happen. Would you do Big Brother again?
Yeah, I would. I think it's easily the most complex game of all the games, I believe. You know, so reconfirmed like how much mentally and emotionally more straining it is than like, you know, arguably one of the most competitive games in Survivor. And so I feel like it to have an opportunity to compete in such a unique game again would be hard to turn down. I love it, even though it is, you know, it's also the most traumatic game, but I do love it.
It's interesting to see how a lot of you reality TV stars, it feels like, you know, fan looking in, it feels like a bubble that all of the reality stars are in this bubble. And if you're on a specific show, you may interconnect, you may intermingle, or you may not. Have you found it a thing between like the people that work on the Netflix shows, that the Netflix people, you know, talk to the challenge people? Do you guys cross all the shows, or is it just the challenge people stick with the challenge people?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely an interconnected web. It's almost like the analogy that I heard from someone in Big Brother. I think they said, I don't know if it was Caleb or one of the people with the military background in Big Brother had explained to someone that reality TV is like different branches of the military. Like you have your platoon, your unit, who is in your season that you played with, that you went through the grind with. Then you have people that are in the same branch that did the same show, but just a different time than you. And then you have the different branches. It's like everybody, you know, kind of was in the military there in some way or another. You know, not to like compare the military as much as just to make that camaraderie ship.
Right.
And so, yeah, so I've noticed that. And then also it's just like the nature of the world that we live in. If you have a presence on TV, you usually end up getting often some sort of social media presence, and that contributes to invites. So like, you know, you go to these big events, whether it is like something sports related, like Super Bowl's coming up, or the music events or whatever, and they invite cross promotions, and you guys see each other more than once, you know, and then just build relationships like people do anywhere else.
Is your life crazier now that you've, you know, entered this TV world?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I was in corporate America for like almost a decade before doing any reality TV, and I loved it. I was in the fun side of it. I was at a marketing agency. We did stunts and events and social media for like Red Bull and Xbox and Beats by Dre. Super fun, amazing place, amazing company. I was there, and then I was working with a black media company called Blavity and Scully, which is a app company to help kids get scholarships. So all of it was in that business development, marketing world, working with cool people, doing cool things. And I feel like a more fun job than a lot of my corporate like contemporaries. But this is a whole different space, and it's so varied. You know, day to day, like the experience itself, and then the different opportunities, yeah, can be very different, and it is crazy. And then being known in such a niche way is also its own weird experience, because it's not like people always say like famous or like reality TV star. I'm like, I'd say reality TV personality, because it's not like you meet a group of 10 people and you have 1 or 2 of them, they're like, oh my God, it's Kylin from The Challenge. And then you have 8, 9 people that are like, what's The Challenge? Like, so it's just like, you're not like, just known all over the world or anything, but it's just, that's a weird experience in itself, because it's like people used to having in their living rooms, those people. So they are really close. And I'm such a fan of the show that like, I really love it, because I love talking to other people who like the things I like.
Makes sense. What is it about my reviews that caught your attention?
I mean, I feel like you're just funny. I feel like you are. I feel like you have that great line. You walk that great line of having strong opinions, by expressing them as something I appreciate personally. Is that you express your opinions as opinions, and I think that a lot of people, once they build a platform, they tend to express their opinions as fact. And that is something that annoys me personally. And so I love that you in addition to just being funny, you also throw in your personality, throw in your perspective as your perspective. And I appreciate that.
All right, we're going to get into this review. Control, chaos, or conquest? Which one is your favorite and why?
Well, I'd say that despite it's different parts for different things, because I love conquest, competing as individuals is really cool. And like that paddleboard one where they threw us off the speedboat was a really fun challenge. But then I'm not a big fan of the safety chain. I haven't been in seasons of the past. I wasn't, when it was on Celebrity Big Brother. It was, I think that I like when people get to call people out. So I really love the calling people out in the beginning of the game, as far as eliminations. So I think that there's different parts that I like to different ones. The draw adds a little bit of excitement to the game, but then it also and it gave some sort of value to winning the dailies, which was cool. But obviously, the format of our game was unique. Like you've seen big alliances in the past. The vets often create a big alliance, but this format of the game, considering it made up a majority of the game in chaos, made it a little bit annoying. Not even annoying for me to go in multiple times, but it was more annoying just, I feel like, even as a viewer, because it was like it took away repercussions for doing that. I think that typically if you threw in somebody multiple times, they're taking out other people in the house. So even if you make them take out one alliance member, the next time they're coming 1 degree closer to you. They're taking out your friends, and that's going to shift the numbers in the game as the game goes on. We had 10 weeks of chaos. So normally you have 10 people from the house leave. In our scenario, what's it called? Most of the women won, and then, well, all of the men lost against the champions except for one. But, we'll talk about who's counting. But it's like, I think that that made it so that we had half as many people leave in these eliminations, and that I think it just took away, like I said, it took away repercussions. And so that's why it was like, somebody would talk, like even when Corey, I like Corey, but just when he was like, oh, I'm doing the bravest thing, throwing in, Horacio, it's like, first off, it's not brave because that's what everybody in the house wants. It's a 2-man alliance versus the other men in the house entirely. So like, that's not brave in itself. And then not to say it's not smart. That's a different conversation. Is it? A safe move can be a smart move, but it's not brave in the sense that. And then also on top of that, it's like, if you take a shot at me and Horacio, we're not coming back for you. Like, we're coming back to take out like the people who would make the most sense, like the heads of the snake, so to say. And so it's just like, so I think that was, an interesting aspect of the game. And then even just, as we saw, me and Horacio, like we either, for that most of that portion of the game, we either were on the winning team or we were in the sand very consistently. It was funny watching TJ say, he's like, this is our 16th elimination. And I was like, well, I was in 5 of them. And that's not even counting, that's including the ones that there was only women in for half of those, for like 7 of those or whatever. So It is a lot. But there, even if you won, you know, as we saw, we would still. Horacio won. I went in. I won. Olivia won.
Which is
won.
crazy. It's so crazy. I'm gonna say I wasn't a fan of the chaos because I felt like, and I think that the challenge should definitely correct this, in my opinion, that if there is someone that's constantly voted in, like there needs to be some kind of limit to that. And if someone makes it like 2 eliminations in a row, then and if they win, they come back with some kind of power to switch stuff up, because if not, I mean, they're just going to keep throwing the same people in. I mean, that's so, like, it's so corny to me. And then we live in this era now where it's like anti-bullying, no bullying, but like that is a form of bullying when you keep throwing the same person in over and over and over again. So I feel like TJ should step in. I mean, because he said, I don't want to see y'all in here again. I don't want to see y'all down here again. And I'm like, well, TJ, create some rule where they can't go, you know, maybe after the second time or something. I don't know.
I think it's the power, like you said. Giving a power for eliminations is something that I feel like could be a thing. Like, give some sort of power
you get immunity or something. Maybe you get immunity for the next challenge and you're safe or something like that if you win and come back.
And TJ said, that was the disappointing part too, is TJ said every single elimination, he said, to be a champion, you have to beat a champion. To be a champion, you have to beat a champion. So I'm in my head thinking, like, this is going to be some sort of advantage later on in the game. Like, he's going to get to the final and be like, only you guys can beat a champion. He's like, just you and Michelle. He's like, because right now in the house, there's one person this whole season that played a champion.
Yeah. And you
Michelle,
should, and for beating a champion, especially in the chaos, for beating a champion, you should have gotten something outside of the $10 measly.
Or give me the $10K. How about that? Give me the $10K.
That would make sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, walk away with something. All right, so Kylin and Horacio beat Zaza last week, but I guess it's like a couple of days for y'all, but for us it's like last week. What's going through your mind when you guys, like, when did you have a conversation to act like Horacio was not coming back with you?
Oh, so we're in the bus on the way back, and we knew we weren't going to tell them anything. We're like, all right, we're never going to tell them anything about this. We'll leave it shrouded in mystery. And then somewhere just popped in my head, I was like, you know what'd be funny is if I walk in first and they are like, you know, because there's going to be a sigh of relief. If Horacio doesn't come back, people are going to be excited. So I just was like, that would shake them up a little bit if you come in like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, you know, a couple minutes after me, come in. So I asked production, I'm like, hey, can I come in first? And then we'll have him come in a few minutes later. You guys just hide him. And they're like, let me go ask if we could do this. They came back and I was like, dang it, are they going to say no? And they're like, yeah, all right, here's the deal. We're going to let you do this, but you have to promise to commit to this. Like, you can't, like, this has to be your guys' story that you die with. Like, that, you know, because I was going to say we compete as individuals in private. We didn't get to see each other. And so we don't know who's coming back. And they're like, you can't like be like, oh, I'm just kidding, ha ha ha, or whatever. You have to commit to that. And I was like, I promise I'll commit. And they're like, until he comes, you have to, what's it called? You have no idea whether or not he's coming back. And I was like, I will commit, I promise. And literally it was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go in. You come in like 5 minutes later. 5 minutes passes, and then 20 minutes passes, and then they left me there for at least 45 minutes. So I'm sitting there with Olivia and Narice. They're bawling their eyes out. I keep crying to match it. And in my head, I'm just like, this has gone way too far. This is way too much. But I promised I would commit. So like, I'm stuck. I'm like, is he coming back ever? I don't know at that point. So it was
that's insane. That's insane.
They really played me. I played myself.
So Olivia says she is not happy with Ed, with what Ed did. And she's talking to Mariah and Michelle about Jay and James. What are your, like, did you watch the episode back?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we hear Olivia say that she's mad at what Ed did, what are your thoughts as you saw the episode?
I mean, well, okay, wait. We're talking about how Ed we're talking about when me and him come back. When me and Horacio first come back, and Olivia,
right? In the beginning, in the beginning of the episode. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm agreeing. I'm like, hey, because that was one thing that did have, like, Ed, I think it was so interesting because I feel like I saw Ed from the type of guy that he is. It really felt like he was not, and he's kind of said this, he wasn't being himself. He just isn't that type of guy to like play the way that he played, in the sense of like following the big group and like not making decisions for himself. And like it was, and I remember talking to him after because he went into that last, the CT elimination where we had the stalemate. He literally was walking down. We were walking down. And he's like, well, it's already me. I'm just going to vote for myself. And I was like, my guy, it is not you. I've been hustling to get these votes. Do not vote for yourself. So afterwards, I was like, I told you, right? And he's like, I really appreciate that. It won't be forgotten. So I was like, cool. And then proceed to save every single person that voted him in, and then only put into elimination the people who voted to save him. That was, that was a little bit frustrating to see and disappointing. Not even frustrating. It was just disappointing. It's like, oh man, like, why would you do that? Because, we don't know how many people are going home. If we go home, you understand that still, like, they're not going to, this alliance has showed they don't care what you do for them. They will say thank you very much and send you in right after us. So like, why would you support them? It just was not making sense. And it was funny because I was doing an interview with Ed, and he's like, a lot of people were relieved probably when he got purged. And that's true. Like, Ed is a serious threat in this game, especially in the final. And I was like, but what's crazy about that statement is that the only people who were relieved were all of his alliance.
Right.
Me and Horacio didn't care that whether like if he was there in the final with us or not. We didn't care. But like his alliance was the one who actually didn't want him in a final. So it's even more crazy when you put it like that.
There was during the swimming challenge when you guys were on the buoys and you were coming back, you see a clip of Jay saying, "Oh, we got to get Ed out of here. Like he needs to go." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is ridiculous. Like this is so ridiculous." Everyone is pissed when Horacio comes back. And I have to tell you, I was living for all of it. Like all of the tears and the waterworks. And as soon as Horacio comes up, the tone changes and everyone's just pissed. Whoa. What was going through your mind? Like you said that they had you waiting there forever for him to come back. Did you tell him? Did you whisper in his ear? Like what was going through your mind?
So they weren't pissed in front of us. That's like off to the side, off in the corners, off in the confessionals. Okay. So like, yeah, in front of us, everybody was like, "Oh, it's so great to see you." And like, that's why Narice whispers to him in Spanish. She's like, "These people didn't want you back. Like they were so happy that you were gone." Let's be, they're just bad at hiding it. But they were definitely trying to play like, "Oh, well, yeah, they weren't upset about it." And so and then that's exactly what we knew. That's why I said it. I was like, all right, they will. I knew how they would feel, so we wanted them to feel. I wanted them to have that little roller coaster.
What did we miss with the interaction between you and Verna? How did that become so intense so fast? Because we see her come over and she's like, yeah, she says that the girls are sad and it was a sad moment or whatever, and then you immediately was like, yeah, no.
She said, oh, okay, so it was exactly what happened. Pretty much at the speed that it showed. So Verna says like, I was just really sorry for the girls, to see them so sad. And I was like, well, how sorry? And I said, how sorry? And then she's like, well, be quiet. And I was like, no, I mean, I'm just saying. And it's not literally, it was not a joke. It was a very true thing. It's like, hey, if you really feel bad, you can vote differently and make them not sad. If you're that sorry, like that's a true statement. Like there's nothing, no matter if it feels fast aggressive or not, it's a true statement. And so for me, like I deal in truth or even in facts, I should say, because truths can be subjective, but facts. And that is a true fact. Like and so that's all I said. And then she started popping off. And it was funny because like after the whole interaction, one of the producers came up and they're like, hey, what happened there? It's another black guy. So I was like, honestly, I just had the time. And he's like, I get it. All right. And so because I just walked away from her so much and I gave her so much patience earlier. it throughout the season, and everybody was. And I would, hear, like I said, her close friends, all the people I listed would just be like, hey, yeah, we know that she is abrasive and rude. And they would say this all the time. And I'm like, okay, guys, but you guys are close to her. Like, if you want to be real friends, then you should probably let her know, because this goes back to the hotel before we entered the house. Like, because we land in Croatia, we're in this hotel for like 2 days, just as they set up like cast photos and stuff. And back at the hotel, she was having a meltdown, blowing up on people. And I think that one of the stories, I just found this little note for my journal that I think sums up a lot of like why maybe she's just so angry, or at least so quick to. I feel like she creates a lot of her unhappiness. And this is something that I genuinely feel for. Like I am a gracious person. I do care about people, and I give her a lot of credit. And all the people who had English as a second language for competing in the game, I think that's very admirable. I think that's crazy difficult. And Kylin, Emanuel, Verna, like I give them so much credit for that. But at the same time, it's like, so in our hotel rooms, like my view for our hotel room, because we were right by the water in Croatia, was just trees. Like it was completely trees. Her view was the most stunning waterfront, picturesque view. And I was like, oh my gosh, Verna, you have this crazy good view. And she's like, yeah, it's nice, but it's just, it almost feels like wallpaper. It makes me feel like it's an illusion. Like I'm going crazy in here. And I was like, geez, like you can't just enjoy the view. Like just enjoy the view. And I think that sums up like how quick she is to go negative with things. And that's something that she would do with her conversations in the house. And literally, she has a line earlier in the show in one of her confessionals where she says something. I wrote it down, but I don't remember right now. But it's something along the lines of like, everyone says that I'm being upset or rude or mean or something like that. But like, it's just them. It's just everyone else. And I was like, what? I was like, that's your takeaway? Is that everybody say, like, everyone told me the thing that happened with Xavier, was problematic. I was like, all right, let me look at it. Let me examine it. Let me learn. Let me grow. Because, I don't want to be that way. And so like at that point, I just ran out of giving her opportunities to grow. And I was like, I'm just going to call attention to this. And obviously, I just finished 4th elimination. We eliminated another friend in Zara. So like, I just was like, I have the time today. I have nothing to lose.
Listen, you can have the time any day of the week for me, because every time you speak up, it's about something that you need to speak up for, because I don't care what anybody says about the Xavier blow up. I was on your side. I'm like, get in that ass. That's what you're supposed to do. Y'all had a little thing going on, and now he's just gonna, you know what I'm saying? So when you speak up, I'll be there. I'll be like, let's go, Kylin. Let's go. So we have a little moment with Emanuel and Verna, and I'm not their fan, so we're not going to talk too much about that. Are you cool with Emanuel and let's say Verna now? Are you okay with them?
I have no ill will towards Verna. I hope that she finds happiness, and she's actually a pretty decent competitor. When she wants to be. I mean, she's in Survivor Turkey All-Stars, I think, right now, and I think that's probably warranted. I think that she is. So it's just like, just get your attitude in check. You saw CT talking. If you watched Home Turf, the new show, he talks about how Verna was kind of becoming a liability in that same way. She's probably one of her own worst enemies, and so I don't have any ill will. Like we don't, we're not friends. Like we don't need to be. But and then Emanuel actually. I actually like Emanuel a lot. I think that him and I actually have a pretty good mutual respect. The only holdup I have with him right now, it was just on social media. I guess he was like popping off a little bit, and it's just like, he's still in the game right now. And I think that he is a really good competitor. I feel like he is smart. Like we would talk about stuff and I'd be like, he's clever. Like he'd come up with ways for different puzzles or eliminations. He would talk about them. He's like, oh, I think I would approach it this way. I was like, that's a pretty smart way to approach it. And we've seen his performance in the past at times. This season, he says he's holding back. You can never, if somebody's holding back, you can never tell how much that is true or not. He was on my alliance for when he was running on top of for getting tanked. It definitely made sense that he was thrown, that he maybe wasn't trying his best, but if you hold back, that doesn't suggest that if you didn't hold back, you would do how much better you would do. So right now, I feel like he's been very protected because he has that pre-existing relationship with Michelle. They have a history. And so it's like, you have that pre-existing relationship with Michelle. You got literally the luck of the draw with Jordan, because like Jordan was taking most people out, I think, in that elimination. I don't know. I think Jordan, like, I think Emanuel's an impressive competitor. I feel like Jordan, that was made for him, and he was going to take out most people. Kylin is a beast, and he worked over Kylin like nothing. So I think that's when people ask, that was the only elimination I would have been afraid. Like, I'd be concerned. Like, I'd love to do it because I'm competitive, but that's the only one where I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know if I had that or not. I don't know, because this is Jordan in that specific elimination. So it's like you have the luck of the draw here. You have the luck of the draw in your relationship with Michelle, who happens to be the most connected person in the house. And so it's like, don't ignore that. You can be good and then say, hey, I also got lucky with this. You can have both, and then be even more respected by people, because you can acknowledge that rather than just, try and take in as much, ego and bravado as possible. So like, I hopefully, he pulls that way, because I do think I think that he has so many things to his credit, but it's just accept that.
Listen, this particular season, we have the heroes and we have the villains, and we clearly know who the heroes are and we clearly know who the villains are. And Verna and Emanuel are on the villainous side. We get to the competition or the challenge, and y'all have to drop down a rope and stop right before the end. Man. Now, sometimes I'll be looking at these challenges and I'm like, man, these things look so easy. And then other times I'll be looking at these challenges, I'm like, what do they have these people doing? Horacio's hand, when he comes off the freaking thing, all his fingers are like ripped like, what kind of gloves were y'all using?
It looked worse in person.
I'm like, gross. What? It just made no sense. I don't understand.
Well, it was just because we went down fast. So like actually, I don't know if you can tell. I think you could tell in some clips. I actually knew that was going to happen. I went first. So my heat, that's another thing that is kind of a little bit frustrating. It's not an excuse, but it's frustrating, is that we've seen in past challenges, a winner of a challenge, they'll give you an advantage. And your advantage is you get to set the order. And the advantage is setting the order, because, you can disadvantage somebody by setting them first most of the time.
Right.
I was first in, I think, all 5 in a row of the last challenges. I was in the first heat. One of them was, the mini final, so that didn't make a difference. But all the rest of them, I was in the first heat. And so even in the last one, the paddleboard one, I was in the first heat. And just like, so that was so frustrating, because also in the paddleboard one, I got third. So it was literally me and Horacio second and third. And on top of that, what we didn't know in those first 2 heats that we found out that everyone else got the advantage of was that we had our paddle boards backwards, because like we didn't have good familiarity with the paddle boards. Me and Horacio both had barely done it like 1 or 2 times before ever. So, and not just us, but everyone else in our heats except Michelle. And so when we were watching, I was like, yeah, that was so hard to paddle. Like that was such a struggle. And it was weird that the light was there. And Michelle's like, the light's on the front. And we were like, everyone's just like, what? Excuse me? And she's like, yeah. She's like, did all of you guys have it backwards? Like, because it shouldn't have been hard to paddle. And we were like, what?
So that adds a question. I have a question from that, because I remember, I don't know if I read it or if I saw it, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, but do y'all not get some kind of hint or idea on what the challenge is going to be before you like go ahead and do it, so that like no one gets hurt? I remember reading that for one of these seasons.
We get a briefing of what the challenge is, for sure.
Okay.
And that's like our mistake. Like to be clear, like that was something that it's a race, and every second matters. So it's not like you wanted to take time to examine the board or something, but Michelle did it right. So like maybe there's no excuse for us to have not done it right. We just didn't. And so it sucks that like to be so close, it's like second and third by seconds. And Ed, like I said, Ed's a beast, but like, if it was only by seconds, and that means if we had it the correct way, the same way he did, we probably would have beat him.
Right.
So I think that stuff like that, or the going at first has that disadvantage, and then also, like I said, I was in the one you were talking about, into the line with the rappelling. First off, I'm like, oh my gosh, of course we're rappelling with Jay, our nemesis in the game by this point, who's a semi-professional rock climber and rappels every weekend. So we're like, all right, but we got it. And then so that's why I was, once again, Horacio is just so well-rounded for him to get like second by seconds,
right,
his first time rappelling in his life.
When I tell you, I was like, please, Horacio, please, let's go, let's shake this up. TJ says he wants y'all to win. Let's win something. I'm like, come on, let's go.
So I'm pretty sure we did win for the. I don't know if you saw Narice's comments for the record. Like, and this is the nature of the game. Like, it's our fault once again. What happened is so the whole point of the game was to go as far as you can, as fast as you can. So you essentially have, this is the rope in the rappel. And so me and Horacio had the rope completely flush. So like, if you look, other people, everyone else has some rope still left out. And not only that, I actually even pushed the rope in further into the machine because I was like, and I was just holding on to the rope. So the machine was no longer holding us up. It was just my pure one arm holding the rope and holding myself up in the rope. So no one could get further than me. But what happened is because we were holding our weight, both me and Horacio, they had a camera boat that would come around. They're like, hey, when you feel you're done, call the camera boat over. We'll come take a picture. And that will be how we officiate and measure who won. Because we're holding our weight, we couldn't hold it long enough for the camera boat to come in. So they never got a photo of us for either one of us. So even though I feel like the cameras that they use are HD enough that they could have looked and tell that on its own, we were like, they said that they couldn't get the picture. So that, that is what it is. So it's like, and we fell. We couldn't hold it long enough for the picture. We knew that was part of the rules. The boat had to come and take the picture. So that was a little bit frustrating because it's like, I think you guys could have told that we did win that, but it is what it is, and that's why, like me and Horacio, we're just like, it's our fault. We should have won. Like, that's it. Like, the only regret we have is we should have won things, and we made little mistakes that didn't, and the consequences of our own actions. So,
hey,
that was rough.
The one thing good that happened was Ed was eliminated. I was so excited. I don't know. I mean, I used to love Ed. Ed was like the good guy. Ed was a hero,
Exactly.
And now he's become this, like, I don't know, but I was rooting for Ed until I was not rooting for him anymore. So when he got eliminated, I was like, yes, let's go. Let's get him out of here. He's gone. But Jay wins, and, I'm shooting my remote at the screen. I used to like Jay too. I used to like Jay and Michelle. I feel like back in the regular seasons, they were always the ones going into elimination. The vets were always putting them in. And they were the underdogs back then. They were the ones that, had to fight for their life. So I was always like championing them, but not anymore. It's just crazy.
We're definitely seeing some. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I say we're definitely seeing somebody point. I've been thinking it multiple times, and we're definitely seeing some Stanford prison experiment. If you've ever seen that, it's like an old say they did, where like just to show that power corrupts, like power can corrupt.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the epitome of the Dark Knight quote. Die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And
exactly.
and to be clear, like I personally, I'm not going to call Jay or Michelle. Especially Jay right now, as most people are, like a villain in real life. Like I think that he, just is like maybe an abused puppy or something that like snaps at people because he had, to deal with some negative struggles in the past. And like I'm a gracious person, so maybe I'm wrong, but I like to leave room for that. And so I'm just like, hey, I think that is he a villain in the game? Absolutely, and it's not the edit; it's just the result of how things played out. But like, does that make me? I don't think it makes him a bad person, and I do
better
better
you than me. Better you than me. Okay, between you and Narice, y'all were me when Jay came and thought he could talk to anybody however he wanted to talk to. I was like, who is he talking to? Oh my God, this man is. I don't know what is going on with him. It was just
we definitely
crazy.
Didn't know the extent. Like you were talking about speaking my mind earlier. I think that I definitely would have spoke up more to Jay or called him out on a few things if I had known how much he was running his mouth on certain things, like in the confessionals, in other, in other conversations and stuff. Like for me, like even when he snapped at me in the kitchen that time, I was like, you know what? His best friend left. He's sad. I'm not going to kick a dog while they're down. Like, just let him chill. I'm going to walk away, turn the cheek, whatever. And now I'm watching it back and he's like all this barking. And I'm like, yo, if I had known, then I wouldn't have been so soft. Like,
listen, I was kicking the dog while he was down. I didn't give a damn that Aesop left. He can take his little pretty RuPaul drag race behind somewhere. I don't care. Listen, He needed to go. Jay needed to feel some kind of pain, and I'm glad that he felt that pain. And I loved every bit of him crying and sobbing. His friend is gone. Listen, and then the fact that he tried to blame the women and he was trying to attack the women. I was like, are you freaking serious? And then I read somewhere that y'all had that stalemate happen like 3 or 4 times or something. And then like the last time the producer was like, okay, this is the last vote. Y'all can't do that anymore.
It was only like I feel like it was only twice, maybe. I think we went around maybe one more time than it showed at most. But it was very quick. Like it was like everybody vote again. And then it was like, all right, you guys, we're gonna have you vote one more time. And that was when finally I think Corey changed it and was just like, all right, well, I don't want to be at risk. And then Ed was like, nah, let's play. And I was like, yeah. And it cracked me up a little bit because you did see like, you know, all the other guys besides Corey like celebrate like, oh, chaos, this is fun. You know, this is the game we're playing. And then like you watch it back and you're like, oh, they were all freaking out, like pissing their pants about this. They weren't excited about it at all. Like they weren't excited to finally have any amount of and just to see the panic of the house. It's like you guys have had a very easy coasting for 10 weeks or whatever it was by then. And then you have one little bit of resistance and you guys crumbled. You guys emotionally
were you crying like everyone else when Asaf left? I mean, because everyone was crying. Like everyone had tears in their eyes. I'm like, is this Gandhi? What is going on here? Everyone's crying.
To be clear, I think that as I've said before, like they're not like some people maybe were crying. Like Jay was crying because it's his friend. But what happened was Asaf had a very emotional display after he lost that was sad to watch. Like it was, you know, I'm not a heartless person. Like it was sad to watch. He was very much crying, like, you know, like, oh, I'm so sorry, you know, family, you know, my kids and everybody. Like I'm not mocking. I'm explaining.
Right,
he was like, I'm sorry that you know, I let you guys down. I'm so sorry. He was in tears. It was an emotional moment, and then that's what made people cry. I don't think that everyone there was crying because they're like, this is my best friend and I'm so sad that he's leaving. Like, I feel like it was much more because an emotional moment happened.
That makes
sense.
I
understand that, and I felt emotional. But then the moment ended. And then so it's just like, okay, the moment ended, and me and Horacio are talking about the game. And I was like, yo, like, seeing so many people cry, like, does make me wonder, you know, how much we may have lucked out with this. Like, good thing it wasn't Emanuel. Good thing it was Asaf maybe that got picked, because that could be big for he was clearly, you know, more connected in the game than we knew. That's pretty like wild. And so we laughed about that a little bit, like, wow, yeah, what are the odds that like this would be revealed? And then so then that's why it was frustrating when Jay was like, you guys are laughing at him crying about his family, and we're like, no, that was an emotional moment, that had nothing to do with it. But then the moment ended, and then we continued on with our day, and we're talking about the game again. And so that's why it was just kind of like the same way when, you know, Melissa left or when Raven left, that people, you know, they could be sad for a moment, and then they had, like, we were still at the stadium when people were, you know, making jokes about people who weren't their friends. So I feel like that is, you know, where people run into a double standard that I'm just like, no, I'm not going to allow you to do that. Everyone can feel how they feel.
So Jay wins, yay, whatever. You and Horacio are in the kitchen having a conversation with each other about how to move forward. Is there anything that we didn't necessarily see in the edit that we missed in that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, so maybe not that conversation, but afterwards, because what we have that conversation, and we were basically like, well, there's no hope for us. So like me and you are going to be in no matter what. So let's just make sure. It should be easy enough, though, for us to make a deal to keep Narice and Olivia safe, because Michelle and Jay have said the entire season how they are watching out for those two girls. Like, Jay is like, that's his best friend, all those things. And so I was like, it should be easy enough if we let them know, hey, we're not going to like fight you on this. Just make sure that you guys keep the people who you said are your best friends safe. We didn't even think that'd be a big, crazy ask. We're just like, you know what? Let's just take a bow, like do the honorable thing. At least what we felt was. And then we go to the club that night. And what they don't show is one of the, like, at one point, Olivia comes up to me and she's like, hey, I can save both Horacio and Narice, like unrelated to the safety chain. Like, she's like, we worked out a deal that's pretty solid, that not with her having to, you know, make a trade decision of a deal with them to save her. She's like, I can't save you. And I was like, no worries. Like, send me down with anybody that's not them. I'll be fine. Like, let's do that. Especially because we were kind of still hopeful there was 2 people coming back anyways, from the elimination. So I was like, this is amazing. It sounds like a long shot, but whatever. And I remember I told Horacio about it. We're sitting talking and he's like, what? Like, that's crazy. And I was like, I don't believe it because I don't believe those guys, but she feels pretty confident about it. And then I guess conversations after that we didn't know about. Oh, because that's why. Because I was telling Horacio, I was like, Horacio, by the way, like, if they make a deal to save you guys, don't go back on that deal. Like, take the deal. Don't save me. Let them pick whoever they tell you to pick, whatever. And he's like, nah, I probably wouldn't do that. I'd probably still pick you. And I was like, no, my guy, like, please, like, and still, I was like, I don't want to ruin the relationship for the girls if they made this deal and all these things, because we're still looking out for them, thinking they're looking out for us in the same way, both of them. And then so we go, so that was one conversation they didn't show that was significant. I guess conversations deteriorate after that to where it's, you know, either Narice or Olivia in the bottom. And so what's funny is that's why I had no patience for the Jay crying about Narice thing, because we were asking for the uniforms for Horacio and Narice before we were going down, because I always knew I was going in. But then towards the end, I was looking at the conversations. I was like, okay, it's for sure going to be us 3. Let's try and get your guys' uniforms. We just didn't have time to get them before we had to go down. So like when they were like, this wasn't, I'm so surprised that this happened. It's like, how are you surprised if we were already ready for it? And on top, that's why I asked down there. I was like, TJ asked. TJ's like, who is going to save? Because Jay said it's not how it's supposed to go down. And he's like, well, who is going to save Narice then? And he's like, Corey. So I was like, okay, then who's going to save Corey? And Verna, that's where she pops in, like, you don't need to know everything. And I'm like, you guys have no answer for that. And Jay had no answer for it. Jay pops off. There's a back and forth down there between me and Jay too, because he's like, no, like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, and here's the thing. Do I think that he wanted Narice in elimination at that time? I don't think he did. I do think he cared about her, but not enough to stop her from going in, because that's the reality, is that there was nobody there that was going to pick her, that was going to save her. We saw that. We saw it very clearly. And so it's just like, if you didn't make the arrangements to get Narice safe, like, and that whole conversation with Olivia, Michelle, they were like, oh yeah, okay, we'll have Michelle or Olivia save Mariah, and Mariah will save James or whoever, and they'll and we'll Colleen or Corey or somebody save Olivia or save Narice. It's like, none of those people are going to save Narice. You guys, like, that's a fact. So for you guys to suggest that, like, oh well, I thought they were going to save Narice, it's like, then you're stupid. Either you're stupid.
What I realized in this conversation, and I'm known watching it, but it came back into my brain. Narice has helped Jay and has helped Olivia, and in those situations where she definitely did not have to. And it just sucks that later on she's been being betrayed by both of them. And now I understand why she even like tried to have the conversation with them to save you guys, because she has been helping the major alliance out from the very beginning. Yeah. So it's like, now when she actually needs the help from them, they don't come through. And man, listen, Olivia, I cannot believe that. I was like, I just could not believe that. I was like, are you freaking serious? When Horacio, the elimination before, or the voting before, says, save the girls, Horacio is just too good for this show. I mean, god damn. I mean, come on. I need him to be evil sometimes. But he's like, just save the girl, save the girl. And Narice saves Olivia. Olivia comes back in the game, and the very next vote, Olivia is staring Narice in the face. And she doesn't pick Narice. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I mean, well, I'll give you the tease. Horacio was talking and Narice, and he was saying, he's like, it would be cool to go back, but I'd be afraid to go back for another season because I'd probably end up fighting somebody. And we're like, excuse me, what? Please come back. Please. So
what?
I don't know.
Horacio, like that? I don't think that's possible. I don't know. I mean, some people can change. I don't think that's possible. But I'll tell you one thing, baby. It was hot, baby, when Corey sat down and then Narice started popping off, and then Verna started popping off, and Narice said, I'll come over there and pop you. I was like, I love these people. I just really do. But see, the thing is, I'm always team hero. I'm never team villain. And like,
when I was holding Narice there, like, she's small, so it doesn't look like I'm holding her hard, but she is struggling. Like, I was like, she was trying to get over there, and I was like, nope, like, stay right here. My arm is shaking because I'm like, no, stay here. And
when
maybe
did
I
you
should
two
let her
become
go.
so close? When did you two become so close?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, I don't know. It was the same thing with like me and Horacio. It was pretty much just from like, because both of them came in with Jay as their number one guy, like over me for sure. So I think it just really came from like the way that like I played the game, the way I approached it. Me and Horacio had a good connection early on because I told him the first week, I was like, yo, just so you know, there's probably not another guy in here that legitimately wants to run a final with you besides me. Like no matter what they say, as we found out to be very true, I was correct. I told him this in the first week, and we saw how I was very correct. No one wanted him in the final besides me. So I was like, okay. So I think that we kind of in that competitor sort of mindset, like, he said that, Jordan's kind of similar in so many ways. And so like, I feel like he linked up with Jordan that way. And then me and him linked up in a similar way and bonded over that sort of mindset and just respect for competition. And then me and Narice, I mean, I don't know, because we just kept talking in the game, and it is, I feel like the very first time, like me and Narice probably hung out like 2 or 3 times ever before the show, very brief, and all those times it happened to be in a group of friends where I was talking like romantically or similarly to one of her friends. So like me and her just always met on like platonic sort of levels. Like, and so I think that we already had kind of this pre-existing basis of like a platonic friendship. And then in the house, it just solidified. And then obviously with me being so close to Horacio, like I was just close in that conversation and was like always pushing for that. Like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Cause like and so yeah, it was one of those things that just happened. It didn't happen all at once. Like I can't even pinpoint a moment. It was just like we just noticed that we had each other's back, and we're the same type of people. Like she saved Olivia that time, and like I just like, because they asked both of us, and we were both like, no, you gotta save Olivia. Like we know that, and so I don't know. We just all can. I think just the type of people that we are.
When you watch the show back and you see the two intense moments between Jay and Michelle, where Jay is thinking that he's like King Kong, ain't got shit on me, and Michelle is just, he's just carrying Michelle through the game. Especially through this last conversation, I mean, Michelle was crying in the confessionals. What is your take on that kind of dynamic that they displayed in the last couple of episodes? Because Jay just thinks his shit doesn't stink.
There's 2 parts to it. One is that like Michelle's absolutely right, where she like I can still hear it. Like when I saw it in the episode, I remember because they show Raven and somebody else in one corner. I was actually in the other corner hiding, watching them talk. And so when Michelle was like, excuse me, like you've been taking from me, motherfucker, like what? And I was like, oh my gosh, because it was known, like Michelle came in knowing almost everyone in the house. Like there was when I tell you, legitimately 8 people in the house told me that Michelle was their number one. Like that is a serious statement. Like it was why the connections, the pre-existing, relationships, and how she was able to, reinforce those for a time. And like I said, I think the format of the game allowed for like such a large alliance to thrive. But she had those relationships and she doubled down on them very quickly, very strongly, very well. It was a skill. And so it was and it was just people, she played the game with before. And so she did have those relationships, and and Jay was able to benefit from that because they were ride or dies. And that's one thing I do find admirable about them, that I will say, is they are legitimate ride or dies. Like they for each other would knowingly like risk their game for each other. They have each other's back 100%. It's actually pretty admirable how intense it is. But that being said, I feel like myself and others did make a misunderstanding, a mistake in believing that Michelle, because of that bond and because of her power dynamic in the house with so many other people, she had complete control over Jay. And that was incorrect. Jay was very much going rogue in some things, as we saw, not against her, but just not doing, he wasn't under her control. And I think that that was something that we did mistake. So that's why we saw all of Jay's actions fall back on Michelle, because we just believed that she had, him completely under control, and that wasn't necessarily the case. So, yeah, and their dynamic was just interesting to watch, but yeah, she was for sure the, as she said, she was the queen bee. Like she had pretty much everyone but three of us.
Let's see if the queen bee wins the finale. Let's see that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So going back to the vote real quick, and I'll try to run through this as fast as possible. Jay saves Michelle, and then TJ says, "What kind of champion do you want to be?"
That's not when he said it.
And
continue.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, some tea is that's not when he says that sentence, but continue.
Oh, it's not. Oh, well then I need to know when did he say that?
TJ has opinions, as we saw. Oh man, it was rough. Yeah, that he says that after the Olivia decision. Because he says how he's like, wait, like just 2 days ago,
right?
Just pick you like here, and that was the whole thing. Everyone was crying and all that, and he's like, man, I guess you have to decide what type of champion you want to be.
Oh wow!
And we were like, damn, like it was so rough.
Man, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and he may have said it twice. He may have also said it for Michelle, but he definitely said it for that as well.
Wow. So
both and then he said it again at the he went in at the elimination more than they showed too. TJ has feelings.
And
I love TJ.
That's a pretty good thing, because it seems like he obviously he really cares about the challenge. He's been doing it for so long, and I would hope that he would respect admirable kind of challengers that come and do this thing. Wow, that's great tea to know.
And I'll give the edit. What happened. The betrayal occurs. It's as bad as it looks in terms of the betrayal. It's not. The only thing is that it wasn't. It was very survival mode, rather than malicious, which doesn't make it better. But you could tell that Olivia felt that she was back in the corner, and she made a panic decision. And she does. One thing they didn't show that I felt like they could have, because it doesn't actually change much, but it is relevant, was that she wasn't sitting satisfied in it. After we finished the whole chain and it's just me, Narice, and Horacio down, she's like, I messed up. Like, can I take Narice's place? She does ask TJ, like, can I take Narice's place? I'd rather have her be safe. But it was just too low, too late, and obviously not something that they would allow. And it wasn't disingenuous, but it just didn't matter, because that's not part of the game. That's not how the game was played. And so, I do feel bad that they didn't show that, because it wasn't like a remorseless, an action without remorse, but it was, but it still happened, and it happened that way. And
even hearing that, I think about it for maybe like a millisecond, and I'm like, okay. But
it's hard.
It's still cold, man. It's still cold, because Narice sat there and chose you. But anyways,
I know, and that was the surprise. We knew that when we saw her get picked, that was the only thing that surprised me, because like I said, we were pretty much looking for the uniforms for all three of us. We thought we were going in for sure, and then my head jerks over. Like when Michelle says Olivia, I was like, what? Like, what just happened? Oh my gosh, we're about to be saved. Like it was mind blowing. Yeah, so that was a very heart jerking moment, because it was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this just happened. I can't. And it sucks, because that would have been such an epic scene.
It would have
for Olivia to just be like, I know I told you guys I'd pick Mariah.
Oh,
but I gotta ride with Narice.
I mean, you got to think about it like
everything.
from a fan's perspective. Like, we just saw Olivia almost get her brains blown out by a golf ball in the last challenge, riding with Horacio. And like in our minds, like as fans watching the show, we're thinking that they're ride or die. All season, she's been crying about Horacio and how she doesn't know if she can trust him and blah, blah, blah. We never see a full conversation from her to Horacio. So it's kind of like, what's going on here? And then at the very last minute, she makes her case with the other side, and it's just crazy. Horacio's crying.
Hopefully they reward her for it. We'll see.
Oh yeah, I doubt it. Horacio's crying. You know, he doesn't want his boo to go in. Everybody's all sad, and Jay is crying. I'm like, are you serious? I love the fact that Narice didn't want to talk to him in that moment. It was great. But then the three of y'all go to the elimination, and it's very bittersweet because we see I call you baby daddy on my reviews. We see baby daddy over here, then we see the pretty princess, and then we see the holy godfather, I guess, of challengers, who doesn't get upset, and he's pro women, and all three of y'all are fighting against each other. Like, talk to me about that. Like, what was going on through your mind? Like, a part of me felt like the two guys were gonna be like, okay, let's just give it to Narice. But it seems like y'all were all fighting for it. It just sucked that y'all didn't get the puzzle.
So we get asked that a lot for sure. Since the day or so passed. Even my mom asked me, she's like, did you guys just give it to Narice? Like, because sorry, I got some in my eye. I've definitely cried over the episode. I'm not crying right now, but no, even my mom asked, did you guys just give it to Narice? And I was like, honestly, no. And the only reason why is because we wanted to make sure that, certain people didn't win so badly that we're like, you know what? Normally we could probably give this to somebody, like we could pick between us and be like, we were just like, no, we need everyone to try their best. So that way we have the best possible chance of making sure that one of the three of us wins the game. And the only way to do that is to get in whoever has the best shot. And this will help us figure that out. And so, so everybody gave their all. And it was funny too, because the day before, it just wasn't our day. That's it. Like, Narice performed, and you could actually see a little bit of it in the pre-interviews beforehand. Like, you see me, I'm doing my interview. I'm like, it just sucks. Like, let's see, like, if we'll try our best and see, we'll get the job done. And then you see Horacio, he's like the same thing. He's like head down, all this. And then you just see Narice. She's standing there like Wonder Woman in her interview. She's like, I got to do it. Like, Narice was clocked in, and she just came and performed. And we were just, so like I said, we did try, and we were just so proud though, because it was one of those things where, if Horacio won the final, like, it would have done zero for him mentally, like virtually zero. Like, it wouldn't have done anything for him other than confirm, like, what we already know, that he has the ability to dominate a final. Narice, the whole day before, like the whole day when she was when we were worried about her going in with us, and then that morning after she got picked, was just sitting there like, well, I'm going home. Like, I can beat you guys. And we spent the whole day, we're like, Narice, you can beat us. Narice, you can beat. I swear we manifested it, because we're like, Narice, you can beat us. Narice, you can beat us. And then obviously comes in and kicks our butts, and and I feel like the unbeliever, like, everything kind of happens, like, not to say everything happens for a reason, but like there can be something taken from anything, from the way things play out. And for this scenario, I do feel like, Narice winning that elimination against us probably did more for her mentally than winning the final would have done for like Horacio. And it really allowed her to believe in herself as much as we already believed in her, as much as we knew she was capable of anyway. So that was really special, because we do care about her so much. So we were glad to see that.
It was amazing. I was cheering for her. I was upset about baby daddy. I was upset. I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? I can't see him on my screens no more. What is going on? This is so, like, I really feel like the show is gonna suck now. We don't have Horacio. We don't have Kylin. We don't have Zaza. We don't have Raven. And I feel like Narice is going into this house with no friends. Like, no one is really going to have her back. No one has had her back. And then we get to see the preview of her cussing everyone out. But I'm like, that's not going to get you too far. You know what I'm saying? Like, is she like, we don't know. Is she mentally checked in? Is she mentally checked out? I mean, I love to see her cuss everybody out, but I mean, she has to continue somehow. So I'm very curious about, you know, how this is going to go, how long she's going to last. We saw y'all went to the reunion. Is the reunion spicy? Do you get something off your chest?
I guess so. I never think I will. I can't say what happens, but I can say that you'll as soon as I have a feeling that, you know, when the promos come out, they'll probably highlight some spicy moments that occur very, very quickly. That I didn't, you know, I never go looking. I never go looking. All right, that's all I say. I'll never go looking for spice. But
we all love the fact that you always have a response, and I think that's great, because I am there responding, yelling at my screens right along with you.
I probably say have probably the best response clapback moment of my life. Like I think happens at the reunion. That's the tease I'll give. Like I was like, when I said it, I was like, wow, that was sharp.
Yes, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. And I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked or surprised. So listen, I've had you on this video for over an hour. I know you're a busy guy. I appreciate you for, you know, spending some time with me. You have made my year so far, 2024. Now listen, guys, he said that he's down to do videos along the line. We'll see how true that is. We'll see. We'll see. Because I can continue asking questions after questions. Hey, listen, you are amazing. Keep up all of the good energy, personality, and beating champions all throughout your challenge career. We love it. You beat Darrell, you beat Brad, and man, listen, I was like, yes, go, especially the Brad one, man. That was slick how you were pulling both slabs at the same time, and Brad was doing one, trying to be all neat and clean, and you ran through it, and then you slammed it and said, here you go, Jay, this one's for you, suck it. I was like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of stuff that we need. And, you know, I just wish the producers would like see what the audience sees. And like, I felt like they could have made up some kind of power for you midway. They're like, come on, like, even when TJ said, we don't want to see you down here again, like, come on, bro. Like, you knew that was going to happen, especially with this whole voting system. Man, they need to do better. But listen, last question. Are you and Melissa married?
No.
Okay.
No. We're
Okay. That's good. That's good news. That's that's good news. But anyways, listen, man, I'll let you go. I'm gonna end the recording right here.